Dana Holgorsen has a novel idea this week. He's going to call the offensive plays that work.
You are Locked On Nebraska, your daily Nebraska Cornhuskers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And this episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved.
All right, welcome. It's Thursday. Connor, Mitch Shermer with you here on the Locked On Nebraska podcast. I am back. Hopefully you enjoyed the opponent preview yesterday with Matt from the Michigan State Locked On pod. Give him a listen all throughout this week if you want to get more prepared for Sparty coming in on Saturday. It's good to learn. There's a couple things that Nebraska coaches and fans are concerned about as it pertains to Michigan State. It'll be a fun one on Saturday. It sounds like, anyway, based on your guys' conversation.
That was enlightening. Lots of people ready to jump off the ship, it sounds, at least according to our colleague Matt over there in East Lansing. The Jonathan Smith experiment is 16 games in, and they kind of view him, at least some do, as like this West Coast invader, this outsider. They want to send him back to the other part of the country if things don't turn quickly for the Spartans. I was not expecting to hear that level of impatience from Michigan State, but it's funny that he's like a Mike Riley disciple too. And
I was going to say, where have we ever heard that before? A Big Ten school wants to send a coach back to Oregon State. Right. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah. Maybe he's able to get things figured out this year, but Nebraska hopes this week that might not be the case. Nebraska,
maybe Mike Riley will be at the game. Maybe he'll come to the game. To see Jonathan. He recruited Jonathan Smith to Corvallis, and then left to go to the San Diego Chargers, and then came back. Riley did for his second stint as the Oregon State coach, and he hired Jonathan Smith as a GA to get his his coaching career started. So there's a lot of connections there on both sidelines for Coach Riley. He'll be watching on TV for sure.
If he showed up, it'd be like incognito. He wouldn't tell anybody. He'd be sitting like, in row 68 in the South Stadium or something like that. And just somebody would get a video of him. He'd be clapping for both teams. It'd be the greatest thing ever.
Did I tell you the story from the Michigan game about running into Frank Solich in the bowels of the stadium?
I don't think so.
So Frank had not been to a game since he was fired. Which
right, because he came to the spring game a couple years ago.
I was floored by that. Like I thought after the spring game, and first of all, like immediately I failed to register in my mind seeing him at the Michigan game that was a spring game where they honored him, but it was. And then in the time since then, he has made mended all fences, and there is not bad blood any longer, if there ever was. And I think there was a little bit at one time.
Oh yeah,
between Frank and the University of Nebraska. Well, certain people at the University of Nebraska who no longer work at the University of Nebraska, it's indisputable. But just with the university at large, it was an awkwardness. And he had not been to a game in 20 plus years. And I was in the West. The lower level on the West Stadium had just come down the elevators from the press box, was headed out to the field for pregame. I was walking with a couple other members of the media, and we ran into Frank Solich and Jack Stark just standing there. And they were unsure. Jack Stark, the former Nebraska team psychologist, NU regent, they were standing there, and they didn't have anyone escorting them. They didn't have like an athletic department host. We're just like, do you guys know how to get out? Well, I was like, where are you? Hey, how you doing? Where are you going? And they're like, do you know can you show us how to get to the field? So a couple of us led Frank and Jack out to the field. Just a
amazing,
not expected moment. So
It is
need more
probably
visits.
Memorial Stadium is probably mildly different from
It is
from when those guys had offices there.
It is. Had a nice conversation walking through the old academic area.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, we need more of ex-Nebraska head coaches to make
Random appearances. Yeah.
just under the radar returns to Lincoln.
I can't wait till Bo shows up one day.
It's going to happen.
It's going to be a great day. All right, on to this week. A couple days ago, Tuesday, the coordinator spoke, John Butler, on defense, Dana Holgorsen on offense. We got a couple of Dana Holgorsen clips I want to play for you guys on the show today. So the idea of balance was brought up to him. Nebraska, little stat for you, when they run 41 pass plays per game so far this year. That is 13th most in the country. They run 32 rush plays per game. That is 85th in the country. So their balance has not quite yet been achieved so far this year, and the success would dictate that as well. That is Dana Holgorsen's point to the media on Tuesday when he was asked about striving for balance.
Yeah, I do. I think Dylan's playing at a very, very, very high level, right? And so how I call plays, I call what's working. Okay, so I don't go into a game saying, man, we need to throw for 350 yards. It's all about how the flow of the game is. Okay, with that said, our running back, our running game, it needs to improve against an opponent like that, right? And so, I was happy with where the run was after the first few games, but then you play a top 20 team that's, a perennial top 20 team, and it didn't look the way it needs to look. We weren't finishing blocks, and that's not a shot at our O-line. That's a shot at our offense, because there's so many people that are involved in it, right? First play of the game, Emmett gets 14 yards, and that's the longest run that we had all day, and so we gotta do a better job of scheming things up. We gotta do a better job of sustaining blocks. That's everybody on offense, and then we gotta run harder, and I know a lot's been said about who number 2 is and all that stuff. We have options, and it's our job to get them there. And when we put them in there, it needs to look better. So if you want more running, if you want more rushes, then when I call it, it's got to look better. I'm not going to just keep calling things that aren't working for us, right? So we have a very diverse offense and we can do a lot of different things. We can get the ball to a lot of different people. That to me is balance. That's balance, okay? And my job is to call the plays that are working to where we have a chance to be successful.
He, as usual, just laid it right out there. When I call it, it's got to look better. He's not just going to bang his head against the wall and call plays because he wants the numbers or somebody wants the numbers to look more balanced.
Well, especially Mitch, like when you're in a situation like Nebraska where you're not like you're obviously thinking about your defense and how quickly they get back onto the field and all that stuff. You're trying to protect them, but it's not like it's been over the last couple of years where you just feel like you could put them out there and they can get a stop anywhere they are on the field, right? So, I do think you have to maximize every possession offensively, the best way you can, and that's to move the ball down the field and get as many points as you possibly can, right? It sounds so simple, but I do think you probably need to care a little bit less. Coaches will tell you got to run the ball no matter what, because you have to go out there and you have to protect your defense. Sure. And I just think, Nebraska can't really be thinking about that on the offensive side of the ball. They got to get yards and points.
It's not a reason for celebration that Nebraska ranks second in the country in passing yardage at 351.8 yards per game, because what it indicates is that Dana is already doing this, what he's talking about. It sounds like he's going to just up the ante on this process of calling what works, but he's calling what works right now, and that's leading Nebraska. You mentioned the split in the numbers, in the percentages of run versus pass. Well, yeah, they're throwing for 350 yards per game because the running game isn't there and isn't giving them the production that they want. So while some of Dana's old style of play calling and the old offenses that he ran, where he made his name as a coach, you were striving every year to lead the nation in passing yardage, and he did that at Houston. He did that as a coordinator. At Nebraska, that's not necessarily what you're looking for. Nebraska would probably rather rank like in the 10 to 20 range in passing, because then that would mean that it's running the ball more and having more and playing more efficient offensive football.
They're also not creating any explosive plays, like, period, at the moment. So, I mean, he talked about that explosive rush, the first one, 14 yards from Evan, the first play of the Michigan game. Yeah. Nebraska is in the 19th percentile right now in explosive rush percentage, like the percentage of their rushes that are explosive. It's not good. I mean, it's worse than, 4/5 of the country at this point. But pass plays is not much better. They're in the 39th percentile. So, it's kind of one of those things where you have to find something, but Nebraska's got to pop a couple on the ground. And I feel like that's the kind of run game they're going to be.
John Butler, the DC, said that stopping the run, because this is obviously an issue too, is about attitude. And he was much like Dana, calling his guys out to some degree and saying, have more attitude, bring more attitude to the way that you go about playing defense. And I think running the ball, which is what we're talking about here, is also about attitude. So after we heard from the coordinators, are we to believe that they think that Nebraska is not playing on both sides of the line of scrimmage, like in the trenches, with enough attitude?
Well, you heard Dana there is like, they kind of, or maybe that was Butler the other day. I'm sorry, I'm getting them confused now, but somebody said like they kind of showed us how it's done. Maybe it was Dana just in that clip.
Dana went and showed the offensive players film of Michigan's offense, which is a humbling experience.
Yeah,
if you're
he ain't talking about like, he's not talking about scheme. He's talking about he's talking about the way they get off the ball, and the way they strike people on the offensive line and stuff like that. And same thing on defense. So 100%. I think they both feel like they have left something out there in terms of their physicality. At the same time, I do think you had to probably tell some truths about yourself over the last couple of weeks and figure out what you're good and what you're not good at. So we'll see. Yeah. We'll see what all that stuff looks like this coming Saturday.
Couple of notes, or one note in particular. It appears that Williams Nwaneri got a black shirt in practice this week. I had to go back and check in August to make sure he didn't have one, and he did not. I thought that some of the media were misguided in their excitement to see background practice video this week of Williams Nwaneri in a black shirt. Now, and in my mind, he had one before the Cincinnati game, but he didn't. It was Cam Lenhardt at that position who had the black shirt, and Nwaneri who was listed at the top of the depth chart. So that's just like a motivational thing. Like, hey, you're both kind of number one. We're going to give you both. And they had an or between them. So Nwaneri's got a black shirt. And the reason I bring this up is because now Cam Lenhardt, Keona Davis, and Elijah Judy on that defensive line are all wearing black in practice. And we don't know about Riley Van Poppel. Haven't seen any leaked practice video of Riley, but he's essentially a starter up there too, playing those kinds of reps. Is Nebraska, really quick before we go to break, like trending more toward having a stacked front, like an even man front, 4-man front instead of the base 3-3-5? They ran a lot of that against Michigan, but I think that's what I think we're probably going to continue to see more of that in the rest of the Big Ten.
Yeah, it's all it's multiple. So
it is.
The thing about
that
there's
a base. There's a base that they can go back to, and it's either 3 or 4.
It's super opponent dependent. Like if you feel like, all right, we don't have the ability to be explosive on the defensive line and let our linebackers, fill and make plays, then yeah, you probably will go with something a little bit more stagnant and hold you up front, something like that. So I think it's all, it gives you the ability to be a little bit flexible. And so whatever we see, that
where it might be different is, I think in the past, when Nebraska has played a 4-man front, it's because the jack has crept up there. The Dasan McCullough player has crept up there and been that 4th guy. And that may not be the case now. Like if he's creeping up to the line of scrimmage, he may be the 5th guy. So just something to watch as Nebraska plays on Saturday.
All right, quick break. We'll come back. We'll have a volleyball note or two, and then we also have another clip from Dana Holgorsen that we could get out there as well. Back after this. But first, word from our friends at the FanDuel Sportsbook. In fact, there is an NFL game tonight, ladies and gentlemen. San Francisco and the Rams of Los Angeles should be a fun, competitive Thursday night game. Maybe one of the only that we'll see this entire year because the Thursday night games have stunk so far. But that won't stop you from getting in on the action with the FanDuel Sportsbook right now. New customers can bet $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. It's quick, easy. The best way to add a little bit more energy, whether it be to your Thursday night like tonight, or Sunday afternoons or Saturday afternoons, of course, in college football as well. Plenty of player props and available options for you. Anytime touchdown scores, same game parlays, live betting, all that stuff. It's in there. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel.com. Place your first $5 bet today. And another word from our friends from Square. Your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that truly make the neighborhood feel like home, whether it's the local sports bar packed on game days, the coffee shop that knows your order by heart, or the corner deli that's been serving your community for decades. These are the places that bring people together. When the neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives as well. So local spots in every neighborhood, they come alive, whether it be Sunday during the NFL or Saturday during college football, like it might be in Lincoln. Everyone's in team colors. As you guys know, the town is painted, in this case, red on Saturdays. Places like the Mill downtown. I was looking at some of the other places that use Square right there downtown.
We have a list.
Or in the area. Yeah, I got the list. If you're over on East Campus, the Cultiva on East Campus, the Cookie Company at Gateway Mall, all of the Mill locations. A personal favorite of mine, Heyoya. Have you ever had Heyoya? No. It started as like a food truck on like 27th and like almost Superior in a gas station there. Fantastic place. I would check
I lived
that
over
out
there, but I don't for a while, but I don't think that was I don't think it was there then.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I think they have a couple locations now. So check all those places out. They use Square. They're part of your neighborhood. And they are very, very important, of course, to the community. They're what makes the neighborhood feel like home. And so many of them run on Square. You could go to square.com/go/lockedoncollege to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square, see you in the neighborhood.
You mentioned the 49ers Rams tonight. Are we going to have Peter in the booth?
Probably. Oh, I mean, it's a long flight, but it hasn't stopped him before. He's always there somehow.
I've seen like 19 videos of Peter this week. He's taken over the world.
Yeah. Well, it was Ben before, and now it is Peter. Kirk Herbstreit's
America loves Peter.
Many, many dogs. Yes.
Cannot get enough of Kirk Herbstreit's dog. All right. Hey, tomorrow, mailbag. Get your questions to us. I checked the email inbox on Wednesday night, and we've got room for a few more questions. So thanks for all of you who've already sent them in. Remember to tell us where you're emailing from or sending us message from. We'll try to check the YouTube comments too, but it gets a little hairy in there. So sometimes we might miss those. The best way to reach us for the mailbag is definitely at lockedonneb@gmail.com. Before we get back to some talk about Michigan State and then make our picks for this game and for a couple other games in college football, I want to mention that number 1 ranked Nebraska volleyball travels today to State College, PA. They will be at Rec Hall on the Penn State campus Friday night, 7:00. This is Big Fox on this game. So get ready for lots of Nebraska Penn State history. Of course, Penn State beat Nebraska in State College last year to deny the Huskers an outright Big Ten championship. And then 3 weeks later, beat Nebraska in Louisville in the NCAA semifinal at the Final Four to end John Cook's career. This was the first reverse sweep that Nebraska was victim to since 1982 in the postseason. Also, Penn State beat Danny Busboom Kelly and her Louisville team twice last year, including in the national championship match. So there is some revenge on the mind of Nebraska players and the Huskers' first-year head coach going into Friday night.
Yeah, tough place to play. You don't get the return trip until like the very end of the
Black Friday.
Yeah. So that'll be fun depending on the outcome. But Nebraska still rolls in this thing undefeated. So this is the biggest test you're going to get probably all year until the tournament.
Yeah, Wisconsin has something to say about that, I think. But from a like jersey colors and just who the matchup is, like the meaning of it for sure, the motivation. Danny's quote on Tuesday was, quote, "We're pretty motivated." And Rebecca Alec talked about having a grudge, and they don't hold back. So like when you're ranked number 1 in the country, you don't worry about talking trash. You just go out and say it. And really people don't get bothered by it. Like Penn State's not out there chirping back at them and saying, "Who's Nebraska?" Like they shouldn't be talking. I wrote on The Athletic, the story is up this morning on Thursday, about Virginia Adriano, who's been a big addition to Nebraska's lineup. Huge match at CHI against Creighton in that 5-set Nebraska win. She had the giant solo block against Olivia Babcock, the National Player of the Year at PBA in her first match of the season in the 4th set to turn the tide in that. Keyed Nebraska's victory against Kentucky in that reverse sweep by coming off the bench, and she's really come into her own lately. She was a professional player in Italy's top league a year ago at this time, and Jalen Reyes, the Nebraska assistant coach, went overseas right as John Cook was retiring and Danny Busboom Kelly was coming into Lincoln. In fact, it was Danny's first full day on the job when she gave Jalen Reyes the green light to go ahead and go the next week over to Italy to recruit Virginia Adriano. So interesting backstory there, and it's been an impressive transition and one that was not easy. The transition for Adriano to come over to America and play volleyball. Something you'll probably see more of in volleyball and in other sports too. It's happening in basketball where pros who are getting paid in Europe come to the United States to play in college where they are also getting paid.
Yeah, it's a weird game, but yes, it's definitely been happening for a couple of years in college basketball. All right, let's talk about a topic that you're going to hear a lot about over the next 2 days as it pertains to Nebraska and Michigan State. Something that is crept into people's minds all of a sudden this week. It's going to be hot on Saturday afternoon in Lincoln. We're in the mid to upper 80s. But you guys know how this works, especially right around this time of year. We've been fortunate with the wind so far, but not this weekend. We're getting that sweet southerly hot wind coming in, and we're talking like 30,
Rusty Lord.
40, yeah, exactly. We're talking 30, 40 mile an hour gusts coming in here. So this is going to have an impact on the football game.
This is going to be like the Rutgers game last year. And I'm not saying that it's going to be 14-7 because I don't think it's going to be 14-7, but that was this point in the season or maybe a week later. And it was 90 degrees in October and Nebraska really struggled. Everybody struggled to throw the ball in that game. So at least Dylan Raiola and some of the Nebraska receivers and not Dana Holgorsen, the play caller, but Emmett Johnson and Ja'Cory Barney, they have experience operating an offense in this where I don't imagine that Michigan State, it's going to be a thing. Like, and you're going to hear Matt Rule, I'm sure, bring this up or get asked about it today on Thursday when he does his last session with the media before game day. So 40 miles an hour, like you said, out of the South, going to be hot. Going to be impactful. You get one of these games a year on average at Memorial Stadium.
Oh, at least. I mean, there's a hot wind game and a cold wind game. It's usually the hot wind game doesn't happen in October. Usually it happens a little earlier in the season. But you're going to be prepared for anything. And might this be a situation where the funkiness of Archie Wilson's feet come into play on Saturday?
He's going to kick some banana balls and they're going to go way in the wind. You could have snow in 2 weeks when Nebraska plays on Friday night at Minnesota. Like, I've seen it be a snowstorm on that date right around then in mid-October in the Twin Cities. So
I was there in 2019 when Nebraska got drilled and it was sleeting. The only reason I scheduled that trip is because I thought it was going to be beautiful, and like
the hoodie game.
It was like October 12th. It was the hoodie game. And I was like, oh my God, let's go. And it was miserable. But I had fun because I like Big Ten football weather.
Yeah. I don't like this weather particularly that we're going to have Saturday.
You don't like hot wind?
Especially when it's October. Now, I don't love hot wind. I don't know who likes hot wind.
Nobody.
Yeah, it's not going to be great. We'll see. Maybe the South Stadium will block some of it. It's probably going to be swirling in there, like not straight out of the South because of the big structure that is blocking the wind. So, yeah, I don't know. What else? Anything else we want to discuss before we get through the next break and get to our picks for Week 6?
No, let's do it. Let's get to let's break out now and get to our picks. When we return, we'll have some props and some numbers for Nebraska and Michigan State and a couple other games as well coming up this weekend. Back after this.
All right, a message right now from Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Check out the Mazda lineup of vehicles for a fit that will work for you. Mazda, it delivers confidence with every ride. It has more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than any other company as of August 2025. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details, and Mazda brings the same intention to how it crafts every model. You can feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. Make every drive feel like anything but an everyday drive. With smooth handling to intuitive controls, it's easy to enjoy your time behind the wheel of a Mazda, and with all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you will drive with confidence through almost any season. Like the athletes you watch, Mazda sweats every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. A word, too, from Game Time, because college football is back. Oh, it is more than back. It is in mid-season form, and we could not be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands. Man, you saw that on display all over the place in Week 5 last week while Nebraska was off. There's just nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting a ticket and getting into that game can feel like more of a battle than the game itself at times, with endless queues, hidden fees, prices that can jump at checkout. That's why I love to use Game Time. I have used this app to get into MLB games, to get into basketball events, and of course for college football in the weeks where Nebraska's not playing, or maybe I decide to head out to a game. The app gives you the advantage. It gives advantages back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. They make it simple to see the views from your seats. You can take advantage of zone deals. I love trying that out. With zone deals, you pick the section. Game Time picks the seats. You save the money. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today.
All right, welcome back. Let's go through a few things for Saturday. Remember, our mailbag tomorrow. This is your last call to get in questions. We will get through as many of those as we possibly can on the Friday show. Let's start with the props. Now, we have introduced the wind factor into this game. So we're going to play this straight up, basically, as far as the numbers are concerned. I don't know if the numbers reflect the wind, but let's see where we're at here. Dylan, go ahead.
Yeah, I took it into account. I don't know that there's an official number, like a FanDuel number on Dylan's passing yardage. Probably not, but I took the wind into account and setting this thing.
Okay, the Mitch Sherman Sportsbook has us covered today. Dylan Raiola, passing yards 294.5.
So he's throwing for 284 a game. Michigan State is allowing a lot, 263, and 67.6% completion rate, which is shockingly high. I am going to go under. I just made that decision right here on the fly, thinking about the wind. I'm going to go under 294.5.
Yeah, I'm just going to play this as if it's not maybe as much like not the factor in the game, the wind, although knowing that it certainly could be. I was certainly thinking a lot of points and some passing yards for Nebraska going into this game, but that wind has certainly thrown me for a loop a little bit. But I'll stick with the over because I'll regret it if I don't. Aiden Childs passing yards 186.5.
Yeah. Nebraska is allowing a nation low 75.8 yards per game through the air. Childs is throwing for 217. A fun fact, I got 2 fun facts here in this pick segment. This is the first one. The gap between Nebraska and the number 2 rated passing defense, which is Alabama, is the same in terms of number of yardage as the gap between Alabama and the number 16 rated pass defense, which is Texas. So,
wow.
Nebraska's way out in front. And like I said, with the rushing yardage, that's somewhat of, like I said, with the passing offense yardage, that's somewhat reflective of Nebraska's inability to stop the big plays from opponents' rushing games. Anyway, Childs is throwing for 217 a game, 186.5. I'm going to say under.
I'll say over. He gets for 200. I mean, 200 is a totally reasonable number. You know, and I do think Nebraska's pass defense is good, but I don't think they're like the no fly zone, type of deal here. So yeah, I'll take the over. I think Childs is a pretty good player.
If the Huskers go to shut down Childs and then go to Maryland and shut down Maryland's passing game, then I think they can raise the no fly zone flag officially.
Maybe. Yeah, that'll be time. We'll do a whole podcast about it. Emmett Johnson carries 19.5 is the number.
Yeah, he's leading the Big Ten backs, all Big Ten backs in carries per game. And that's with the taking 2 second halves off on the Houston Christian and Akron games. 19.5. I'll say over. I think he's going to run it 20 times.
Me too. Yeah, low to mid 20s for Emmett. Archie Wilson punts. We're going to set the number at 2.5, and I will immediately take the over.
You're taking the over. Okay.
Yes.
Well, then I'll say I don't want to just make my decision to be opposite of you. I agree with you. He's going to punt it at least 3 times.
That's
Mom
fine.
and Dad and the young siblings are back in Australia, but Archie is still here and kicking away. It's good that they left. They don't want to be a part of this windswept Memorial Stadium environment. They can watch on TV. Can you watch on TV from Australia? I'm sure you can.
Oh yeah, it'd just be like the middle of the night or something like that. So yeah, or at a super weird time, whatever it might be. Who will score the first points for Nebraska in the game?
Okay, I'm going with Heinrich Harburg.
All right, nice. Give me Barney. It seems like the most likely guy to score a touchdown right now. I think they get him going on some stuff closer to the line of scrimmage. Use it as an extension of the run game. I think they'll do that a little bit more, especially in the goal line where they've been struggling. That's why I do like the Harburg pick, but give me Jacoby Blarney.
Maybe that's what Dana means. He had this interesting comment about how the running game, you're going to see some things that you haven't seen in the run game on Saturday. Maybe he just means they're going to incorporate receivers and additional playmakers in things. I don't know. I don't have a great handle on what he means by that. So I'm intrigued. Okay. Will Michigan State have a rushing gain of 30 yards or longer? There's a fun fact associated with this question too. The Spartans are one of only 6 teams in the country in the FBS without a run of 30 yards or longer this season. 2 of the other 6 are Nebraska's next 2 opponents, Maryland and Minnesota. So the next 3 teams to face Nebraska, have failed to go over 30 yards or get to 30 yards on a run. The others are Florida, Mississippi State, and Purdue.
Yeah, I will say yes, and I will say that the player will be Aiden Childs.
30-yard run for Aiden Childs. Oof. Yeah, I'm going to give Michigan State a 30-yard run. No predictions on who it is, but I agree with you. All right. Should we get to the 3 games that we're picking?
Sure.
All right. Michigan State at Nebraska. Huskers are a 10.5-point favorite. FS1 3 p.m. over-under is 48.5. What say you for a score?
Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking pretty hard on the over all week, but this win thing is going to be a factor. It just looks like 2 defenses that are in a little bit of a difficult spot right now. A couple quarterbacks who are playing at a pretty high level. I'm gonna stick with what I've been saying all week just for consistency's sake, and that number is 37-24 Nebraska.
Okay. I'm not far off from you. I will pick Nebraska to win. You pick Nebraska to cover and the The over to hit. I am not picking Nebraska to cover. I am picking Nebraska to win 30-21. So unless that number goes down a couple of points, unless Michigan State or Nebraska takes a safety at the end of the game to flip the point spread, and we won't have too dramatic of a finish. 30-21, Nebraska. I don't think there's going to be a lot of field goals here in this game, but I'm apparently picking one. I'm not sure how Nebraska gets to 34 touchdowns and a safety. How about that?
That's a great
21 Nebraska.
Hey, that's part of the deal. You could pick whatever score you want. They don't ask you. You could just say in random numbers. Like I like when the SP Plus, that they make their predictions or whatever. It's all computer based and it spits out a formula. It's like 33-19.5 or something like that.
How did that happen?
Yeah, I don't know how you get there, but I love it.
All right, 2 games quickly for us to get to nationally. The Big Ten game of the week is UL Monroe at Northwestern. I'm just kidding. It's not. It's actually Washington -6.5 at Maryland, 2:30 BTN. What do we have on this? Maryland looking to move to 5-0, but not a lot of people believing in the Terps as they're a home dog.
Yeah, it's interesting. Washington going across the country as a big favorite, as a touchdown favorite, and having played Ohio State 7 days ago. I mean, that's a little tricky there. Maryland is coming off of a bye, right? Or
correct.
They beat Wisconsin 2 weeks ago.
And then had a bye. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going with, I don't know that Maryland's a better team, but I will take them to at least cover this. So give me the Terps.
Terps to cover, Terps to win. National game of the week. Vanderbilt is 5-0. It beat Alabama last year for the first time in 40 years. Bama, of course, coming off a huge win Saturday night at Georgia. Will there be a letdown for Alabama, or will the motivation of not allowing Vanderbilt to do it 2 years in a row carry the tide over the top? Alabama 10.5-point favorite for this game. 2:30, also 2:30, just like the Nebraska game and the Washington-Maryland game. 2:30 on ABC.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the latter option that you mentioned there. Alabama takes care of business and beats the crap out of Vandy.
All right. Diego Pavia, Heisman contender. Vanderbilt does not get to 6-0, but I like the Doors to cover the spread. Make it a one-score game. All right, that's it for us today. Be sure to join us for the Mailbag Show on Friday. Make sure you also like and subscribe, follow the show, do all of those things that make the podcast work better. It is another big moment for Locked On college football fans. Locked On and Fire TV present college football kickoff. Drake Toll, Gary Patterson, Jesse Holly, Locked On's local experts, a college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch college football kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV.